Hi guys, it's Kiana again. Click the thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the bell. Bye!
You are now listening to the ReEducation podcast. Hi guys, welcome back. It's the ReEducation podcast, season 2 again. Today I have some really lovely special guests with me today that I'm going to let introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Indy.
And my name's Mark.
We've been together for what, 15
We're
years?
together, yeah,
Is it
15 years. 15 years. Just celebrated 8 years married yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. It was but we celebrated it in lockdown, so that was a bit.
It's still
It was still
nice.
right. Yeah, no, you did quite a good job actually.
Thank you.
And we have a son. He is 18 years old, called Leo.
So, Mark, Indy, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the ReEducation podcast. Just to give a little bit of background, I work with Indy at an organization, and we deliver coaching services to young people. And I want to say that the time that I've gotten to know Indy, it's not just on a colleague level, like it is very much so on a friendship base. We do maintain professionalism when we're in the office or when we're on the virtual meetings now because it's lockdown. But, you know, you've introduced everybody in the organization to Mark, but, you know, I hold you both for a dear space in my heart. You're like family. You're not just somebody that I work with or, yeah, we kind of get along here and there. Like, you're genuinely family. And you've met my kids. You've met my mum and my dad. I says, you've met quite a few people, actually. Stop there. You've met family members. And like you mentioned, you have a son, Leo, whom I haven't even met yet.
No.
That is just, you live all the way out there.
Yeah, we do. We're west.
I think once this lockdown situation is over, it's not just about, yeah, maybe we'll meet for a couple of hours and whatever. It will definitely be dinner. Kids can go one corner and play. And I know Kiana will just kind of take Leo under her wing.
Oh, I can't wait to see that. That's going to be amazing.
She'll be feeding him like a little baby as well. Yeah, she loves children. She really does.
I bet he remembers your voice because, like, I saw you every day, really, when I was pregnant, and you were like, rub my belly and be like, how's my little prince doing? You talk to him. I bet you he remembers your voice.
I hope so. I really do.
Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah.
Oh, we love you, Sim.
The kids and I love you too. But people would probably want to know why we're here, what we're going to talk about. I've chosen the topic today of race and identity. So we've had lots of conversations at work since George Floyd was murdered and the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement in the UK, well, globally, really. And, you know, it's really sparked conversations about our young men that are growing up in this society, really, and, you know, our fears, our hopes, and how the world perceives them.
Yeah.
So I never want to be the one to say what people's identity is. Can I ask you both what you identify as?
Do you know, that's like really an interesting question for me because I identify as Indian. I'm Indian. My mum and dad are Indian, but it's kind of like from Indian descent because I was born here. So I also identify as British. I think firstly I'd say I'm Indian. That's the first thing. It sort of goes Indian and then British for me, and then like Londoner. You know, yeah, that'd be me.
Yeah. Well, for me, my dad's Black Jamaican. He was born in Jamaica, came over here in his 20s, and my mum is white English, and so I'm mixed. And it's interesting because I was thinking about this as I learned about coming onto this podcast and just thinking about how do I identify? What do I identify as? And I mean, I would always say I'm mixed, but at the same time, I feel like from my experiences and yeah, growing up and just in general, just that feeling within, just that I identify as Black as well. But then I was thinking to say that I identify as Black, would that be kind of eliminating a whole side of me, you know? So, you know, my mother's side. So I was thinking, okay, maybe it's a case of I identify with Blackness, or with, I identify with rather than as. Maybe it's something that kind of fluctuates. The more I think about it and the more kind of I look into it, it kind of changes. You know, I've got a lot, obviously a lot of friends from lots of different backgrounds, and I know we'll go into all history and stuff later, but I mean, you know, as a child, filling in forms and stuff, I always had to fill in the other box. You know, that was back when there wasn't a mixed box, it was just other. And so I always felt like the other. It wasn't quite one thing, wasn't quite the other. But I can, identify with and stand kind of shoulder to shoulder with, you know, the Black side of my family, the Black side of myself, if that's a thing. It's really complex. It's really complex. It's really complex. But I have in the past, said I'm a Black man. You know, when it comes to something just superficial as my physical appearance, you know, I don't think I can't be mistaken as white, but people can look at me and think, okay, you're Black. And certainly the people that hurled abuse at me in my life, they don't, you know, they don't care you're mixed or this. You look like that. That's what you are. You know, N-word. So yeah.
When George Floyd was murdered, and everyone was feeling so much anger, like you were so angry every day. It's like you didn't know what to do with that rage. And I remember so clearly that time you just saying, I'm Black. And you were so, it's kind of what you were saying in terms of like fluctuating maybe, like at that point you were holding that so tight, you know.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's like, oh, I'm mixed, and you're proud of that, and it's kind of like,
yeah. This is the thing. I am proud that I have I'm biracial in that sense. I you know, I've never denied that. I love that. But yeah, the whole thing with George Floyd did kind of highlight something. When I remember speaking to one of my friends, and his partner didn't quite get the whole Black Lives Matter as a statement, just didn't quite understand it. I remember speaking to my friend, and you know, he's Black, and I remember saying to him, look, they're murdering our people, you know, they're murdering our people. And you know, that, I guess that shows to me that, yeah, I identify at least with, you know, the sense that, you know, I have, that shared history, and you know, it's deep as the genetics. I don't look at any Black people and think that I'm something different than them, you know, because I look at my dad, you know, that my dad is, you know, he's Black Jamaican, and I don't see myself as different to him. It's kind of it's
So
weird.
weird.
It's weird. But then I look at my mom, and obviously I'm very different to her. So it's a weird thing.
No, thank you for sharing that, Mark. And it's very deep. And for people that are just, I wouldn't even say for people that are just Black and don't have anything mixed, because even within the Black community, you know, we are mixed. Myself, I'm African and Jamaican, and to a certain extent, I get you when you say, by just acknowledging my Black side, am I totally disregarding and not really fully taking on the side of me that is white? So if I just say, yes, I'm African, am I denouncing my Jamaican heritage? Jamaican people we originate from Africa, but still my grandparents and their parents were born and raised in Jamaica. So, I still need to maintain that level of connection between those roots as well as the others, because it may have started in Africa and then moved there, but for who I know, they were in Jamaica. So I kind of, I get what you mean when you say that taking on one fully, am I really just disregarding the other? And
Right.
I'm really happy that you shared that, because a lot of people may not have to explain how they identify as in the same way as which you would. And other people as well won't understand why you identify and describe your identity in the way in which you do. And I just want to let people kind of see what such a simple question can actually provoke in conversation.
Yeah. And this is the thing. That's why I'm so happy that, just by posing that question, it made me, reflect and start doing a lot, not, I won't say a lot of reading, but, I've started like just looking into it more deeply. And I think if you were to ask me the same thing in a year's time, I'd probably have a whole different answer. It's like learning more about race and, just the history of everything. It's quite mind-blowing.
Do you know though, it is so true. Like if you ask a white person that, they'll just be like, I'm white. Whereas like asking you, someone from like mixed heritage or whatever, I mean that, it's so complex. And yeah.
And the other thing, when it comes to answering a question like that, or just how people would react to, what somebody who's mixed would identify as, it makes me think of, for example, Tiger Woods. He calls himself, I think, Cablinasian, because it's part Caucasian, part black, part like Native American Indian, and part
That is an interesting.
He's got a lot of different,
Wow.
because I think his mother was part Thai and part, I'm not sure, but there's a lot of different mixtures.
Because even when you look at Tiger
when it
Woods,
broke
he has
down.
the characteristic, the facial like
Yeah.
features to look of different backgrounds and heritage.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's the thing. He didn't want to like say I'm just one thing, because it would look like he's kind of pushing to the side everything else and not giving that the respect or whatever the light it deserves. And I remember a lot of people were kind of upset with him for not just claiming that he's black. It's like, look, you're black, like be proud of that. And that's the thing. Sometimes I think some people either say you're black, and then there's other people who say no, you're not black, you're mixed, like you're not the same as us. So because I've had that in the past. I've had that where people like, you're not proper black, you're not proper black, you're half caste, you're stuff like that. So
I really want to pick up on something that you've made reference to, your experiences, how people would try to define you. Tell me what it was like for you growing up as a young mixed black and white male.
Well, for me, I remember being very young at school, and I remember some people would say to me, you're not black, you're just tanned. And so it's almost like
Was this white people?
Yeah, white people.
Because they wanted you to be white.
They wanted to kind of claim me as one of theirs. So they were like, "No, you're just tanned. It's cool.
Wow.
You're all right. You're all right." And then
also, it's as if to say like you're just tanned. Technically, you're not fully black, so you're still kind of one of us.
Yeah, exactly. You're one of us. So like, I remember like they wanted me to play on their football team. They wanted me to play with them, but the way they kind of split it up was like white people versus everybody else.
Oh,
and this is like back when we we're like 6, 7 years old, and so yeah, they wanted me on their teams. That's why they were saying, "No, you're just tanned." And then, but I remember clearly there was a black person at school. This must have been when I was about 8 or 9, and they said to me, "Are you half caste?" And I didn't know what that meant. I never heard that term before. I had no idea. So I was like, I don't know what that means. And they were laughing at me because I didn't know what it meant. And then they kind of explained it, whatever. And so that kind of label that kind of stuck with me, and that I would even refer to myself as that because I didn't know any better. And yeah, so growing up, I had that label. Yeah, I had experiences of, just walking down the street, you got people, grown men in their cars shouting racist abuse at me, and me thinking, what?
Are you a kid?
Yeah. The thing is, right, a little background. Everybody in my household is a different race. My mum, my brothers, nobody even has the same mix. We're all completely different. So I couldn't look at anybody and say they're the same as me.
That's interesting.
And yeah, we're all like so many different races: Sri Lankan, Indian, obviously white, myself. It's a lot of difference. So I was raised by my mum, basically, who's white, as I've said. Yeah, being made aware. I was only really made aware of my race when people like that pointed out, "Oh, you don't look like your brothers, and you're half caste, and this, that, and the other." And so for me, it was quite confusing, I suppose. I was always waiting for my real parents to turn up.
Wow.
Like I mean, even though I lived, like, my mum is my biological mum, my dad my biological dad. I always kind of felt like one day someone's going to turn up and say, actually, we're your real parents, because I didn't look like either of my parents. And even when I was younger, there was a time when I wanted to be white. Because not because I thought that was better, but just because I wanted to be the same as my mum.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I wanted to be the same as her. This was probably when I was probably about 9 or 10. So around the same time when I started to understand. I swear, when I was young, I thought that every person that's born is just born. You just come out different, regardless of your parent. Like this is how naive I was. But that's, I guess, because everybody in my whole family was different. I thought everybody's born different. I didn't know any. It sounds dumb, but
how do you feel about that when you look back and think about that time, like when you were just like
waiting for your real parents and to be like your mum?
Yeah, it's a bit crazy. I mean, I think what kind of helped was that the only real kind of guidance or knowledge I was given. I remember being given a book about Jamaican history, and I remember being taken to the Commonwealth Institute by my parents, and so I was kind of piecing a lot of things together myself about my heritage and this, that, and the other, and but I guess I kind of developed a sense of kinship and the connection with the Jamaican roots, but at the same time that was more just what I just learned from a book. When I would go and meet kind of meet my family from my father's side, I did feel a connection, but at the same time, a lot of times I, for example, couldn't understand what people were saying because they would speak in patois, and I was never really exposed to that. I wasn't taught how to speak like that, so that always kind of made me feel kind of on the back foot, or that I wasn't, that made me feel more aware of the difference between me and, for example, other black people in my family.
Mm.
But amongst like black friends and stuff like that, I always felt, like I'm one of, I'm one of the crew. There's no difference. So but it was a long kind of process.
It's like at times, like when you're, like you said, confused, and people are highlighting your difference. I'm using inverted commas because that's their stuff that they're putting onto you, showing you that you're different to them and other people around you. Like, who can you go to in times like that to express how you're feeling and to get some kind of questions answered, information just on your heritage from both sides, really?
There wasn't anybody to go to. I mean, there were my parents, but I don't remember ever bringing up the topic. I don't remember. There wasn't anybody that I went to discuss that. It was just something that was just in my mind, and I think probably contributed to. I mean, I'm quite an introvert. I'm very introverted, even amongst my friends. I'm really quiet, and I think partly, it kind of all contributed to that feeling of not quite fitting in, and being a bit of an outcast.
I didn't know that. You've not told me that before.
Yeah. Saving it for the podcast, isn't it? So it's genuine reaction. but
I love this. I love it.
To be honest, I think the issues around identity and growing up, all kind of merged together. Because people try to tell you what you are. People try to tell you how you should act, how you should be. And I've had that in the past, people saying, oh you sound white, or like I said, you're not proper black. And even friends, they sometimes can even slip into it, where they'll refer to themselves as pure black.
Oh, wow.
Or might even refer to their own kids as half caste and shit like that.
Oh, wow.
And that whole half caste thing really it pisses me the fuck off. That's what, because do you know what, it's like people don't really use that term as much now. I don't hear it as much now, but growing up, definitely. And when black people would label me that, I think, like, now when I look back, I'm thinking that was flipping, that was crazy, because to call somebody half caste, I don't think people really understood what that meant, because
I definitely didn't, because I remember people being referred to as that in primary school.
All throughout primary school.
In primary school, that's how dual heritage or mixed race children were referred to, as half caste. And I think it's only when I became an adult that I really realized that there's some real, like, not even negative, it's a real degrading term to use.
Absolutely.
when talking or addressing humans. Like, it's just, especially black people, you shouldn't use that term. It's wrong, but exactly. It's what we're learned, what we hear growing up, and that's how they're referred to. So we just kind of pick it up and carry it along. And these are the kind of conversations that need to be had as early on as possible, so that we can stop ignorant commentary like this. That word needs to just be burnt and, like, cremated, and the dust just blown away and incinerated and gone. Like, that's what needs to happen with that word, because now people are going to start picking it up again the more it's still used and continued. But that
exactly, because and especially, like, it's like it's it's used to just sow division between kin, because because yeah, it's literally like saying you're half pure, and with the pureness meaning white, so half pure, so the implication is that being black is impure. So if a black person calls me half caste, they're saying that they are themselves not
pure.
You know, they're calling themselves impure. It's like without even knowing, and it's so insidious. It's so damaging psychologically. Yeah, it's yeah, and the fact that yeah, I would refer to myself as that because I didn't know any better. That just yeah, it's a real.
What's worse is there was nobody even around to tell you, no, that's not what you are. That's not how you refer to people. And I'm not saying that that's your parents, but even I'm 100% certain that this was happening in the school playground.
Yeah.
100% certain that this was happening in the school playground, because that's where it was happening in my school. Teachers wouldn't say anything. Support staff wouldn't say anything. Lunchtime staff wouldn't say anything. Other children wouldn't say anything. So it's like that behavior and that kind of commentary in the playground, it is just fine. And then it gets leaked into everywhere else outside of education.
I was gonna say, yeah, and in that term, it makes you feel like, yeah, you're less than, you're half of a person. Like to have that, you know, that label, you're half this. It's like nobody is just half. You're a whole person. You know, I'm a whole person. It just adds to the confusion and, you know, yeah, with identity basically. And yeah, exactly. I agree with what you said. It just that term needs to be, yeah, just struck from history's logs.
Full stop. Period. Indy, I really want to, before I get onto you sharing your experience, because you've mentioned, you said that you didn't know that that's how Mark felt with being the introvert, and how much is the things that he's sometimes had to just repress, especially as a child growing up, has kind of caused him to not be as outspoken in like social circles and in his own comfort group, which is, you know, you choose your friends. And the fact that you still choose to not be open, like, how does that make you feel knowing that?
It's just sad. I just feel really sad because I know you, and like, he's so funny and clever and you blow my mind, but you really only like that with me. And actually I just kind of laugh about it because I am an extrovert, you know, Sim, like I'm loud and I'm like whatever, so it kind of works that you're just quite quiet, like it works. I think if you were like me, it wouldn't work. So I've never really questioned it. I've just gone cool. But knowing actually the root of that is all of this confusion and feeling like you don't fit in and you're half of something, so therefore how can you have a voice, that type of thing, it's actually so devastating. And it makes me feel even more devastated because our son is mixed, and I just think everything you're saying, I just keep relating it back to Leo, thinking, oh my God, is he going to feel how you felt, and what am I going to do? Because I don't feel that, because I'm just Indian. And although I had like many cultures, like my dad was born in Nairobi and he grew up there, and until he was like 16, then he came to England, so he never lived in India. So like I grew up around lots of Swahili, whereas my mum grew up in India, came here and speaks Punjabi. I grew up watching Bollywood movies, so that's like Hindi. So I've got lots of different languages and stuff, but I know I am Indian, and that's it. There's no confusion there. There's no confusion. So to know that, and it's actually had an impact on you as a person, is actually really, really devastating. Like, I just want to give you a massive hug.
Aww.
Yeah.
So what was you mentioned that your dad was born and grew up in Nairobi, and your mum was born in India and grew up there and came to England. Like, what was your experience growing up with, I would say, connections to Kenya as well as to India, and like you said, to the UK, being born here?
Yeah. It's a really good question. I feel like, do you know what it is? It's really funny. It's the person that you're closest to, I suppose. And I was always closest to my dad. Like me and my dad were really, really close. So actually, I felt a real connection to Kenya. Actually, I really did. I still have. He keeps wanting to take me there, and I need to do it. And he's 70 something. I need to do it like really soon. You know. So I'm gonna do it. And you know, I grew up around African music and you know, the language. I mean, not that I can speak Swahili, but I do know some. Because I spent so much time with him, that was, I really feel like so connected to that. Whereas I wasn't really that close to my mum, who born in India, grew up in India, speaks Punjabi, is like, you know, I wasn't really that close to her, I suppose. So, but like when we were growing up, he mainly spoke English. Like that's what he mainly spoke. And my mum spoke Punjabi. He sometimes spoke Punjabi and sometimes Swahili. So but it would be random Swahili words and random Punjabi sentences, but mainly it was English. So, and yeah, because I was closer to him, I suppose I feel more of an affinity to the stuff that he feels an affinity to. So
I really want to know what your experience was like in school, because I know the type of character you are. Like you can like fit in any given crowd. Like doesn't matter who's there, where you are, like you can really gel. You're bubbly, you're friendly, you're warm, you're very welcoming. So you can make friends with pretty much anybody anywhere, whether they're speaking the same language as you or not. I know you can. I'm intrigued to hear like what your school experience was like, being that you were from a different heritage to, I would say, the other British children in your class and school.
Do you know, it's really weird. My school was actually predominantly white. It was. I was probably one of only a few Indian people and only a couple of black people, genuine. Everyone else was white. I don't even remember there being any sort of like Chinese people or anyone else, basically. I don't remember. It was just a couple of Indian people, a couple of black people, everyone else was white. So it was weird, but only looking back, like growing up, I didn't feel like it was weird. It just kind of felt all right. Luckily, I didn't, at school anyway, experience sort of, I mean, I definitely had the odd moment. Like I remember when, you know, I was walking through and this young boy just went, "Oi, you have a bath in poo. That's why you're brown." I was like, "That's good. Well done." But and I remember like chasing him and gripping him up. Really, it was quite funny. And then like the deputy head walked past and was like, "Get into my office." It was hilarious. But so, like things like that but they were rare. It was more around like my name was different. And do you know what? As I think about it, I do remember a time when we were all in like a drama club and I wanted to audition for the main part, and the main part was Snow White. And someone went, "You can't play Snow White because you're brown." And I got my dad to complain, actually. He came in and had a massive go at them. And I can't remember what happened with that play, actually. I don't even feel like we did it. I can't remember. But so there were the odd things that happened, but genuinely it was actually all right. I didn't really feel, I definitely felt different, but I didn't feel bad about it, really. Like I still, you know, I'd go home and there'd be Indian food and, you know, there'd be a Bollywood movie on and my dad would be telling me stories about like wildebeest and like how there was a snake on his toilet when he came home one day. He had to move it, and you know, so I felt like I had like the best of lots of different worlds, really. I feel lucky in that, I suppose. Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that you chased after that boy that said that to you.
Yeah.
And I'm also even more happy to hear that your dad came in because the child said you couldn't be Snow White because you're not white. Like to hear people actually parents challenging that constantly for me is just that's what I like to hear, because you know the schools technically can get away with a lot of stuff if they're not challenged, and also if they're not challenged in the best way. Thank you both for sharing. I want to touch on something that I mentioned earlier in Indy as well. You said you worry about if that's how Mark feels or felt as well as a child, identifying as mixed black and white. Like, what does that mean for your son, Leo? And, you know, we've had lots of conversations, and it's particularly since she was pregnant, really, we were having loads and loads of conversations, especially around children and, you know, just general chit chat. And I think particularly after the George Floyd murder as well, it sparked something in me. And I remember the conversation we were having, and I said, I feel that you asked the question, and then I said something about, you know, I've just got to try and do my best to educate Naeem as best as I can, because, you know, this is a reality for him. It's not, it maybe, or it could be, like, this is a reality for him. When he steps out in the world, he's seen as a black man before anything else. No matter what tone his skin is, he's seen as a black man. And it's like, I never want to classify somebody's identity for them. I don't want to classify his, but there's some things that he's going to have to learn very early on before the world eats him alive. And it's like, when you think about Leo with all that's going on and hearing the conversation that we're having now, it's like, how do you then, as parents, support how Leo then identifies as?
It's really weird because we've spoken about this. I'm so scared, actually, about Leo being in this world and growing up in this world. I'm so scared. I'm scared that he's going to get racism for being a quarter black. I'm scared that he's going to get racism for being half Indian and being called like Paki or whatever it is that I was called. I'm just so scared. And even more when I speak to Mark, I'm scared of him just being so confused and not knowing who he is or identifying with anyone. I'm scared of him being angry at us for, I don't know what, but just angry that he's a mixture and he will always be that other box, because there is no box for half Indian, a quarter black, quarter white. So what the hell? The only thing that, and the thing is, I can't relate to any of that because I am Indian and there's that box, right? British Asian or whatever it is. Like, I can't relate to how he's going to feel. I take comfort in the fact that Mark has had those experiences growing up and can have those conversations, but I'm scared. Like, are you?
Yeah, I mean, it does weigh on my mind somewhat. I have thought about it even before he was even born, you know, thinking about how he would perceive himself, how he would, would he feel the same things that I did? But
hi guys, it's Keanu again. You're listening to the ReEducation podcast.